Hello, welcome to Know the Faith, Defend the Faith. My name is William Hemsworth, and pleased to introduce my guest at this time. He's of the Lego Church Project. Check it out on Facebook and Twitter. Awesome follow. John Kraemer. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good to see you, man. How things going up there in Michigan?
Crazy as normal. Oh, man.
So with everything going on in the world, and I know you've been doing the Lego Church Project. This is your 21st season.
Yeah, I know.
How's
Hard
it?
to believe it.
Man, time flies, right? What, 2003 is when you started?
No, actually closer to 2000, 2001.
Ah, okay. Now that makes sense math-wise. I guess
Yeah.
8 o'clock here in Arizona. I just want to let everyone know that.
Well,
um,
yeah, but the 2003, though, was season 4, and that's when I did my first Christmas display. So that's just really when things with the project just kind of took off.
Got you. Okay. So with everything going on in the world, how has it impacted season 21?
Dramatically. Because of the churches being closed and the gatherings limited, I can't take the project out. I'm not worried about it right now because my first display last year wasn't until late July. So I'm really not. If I use season 20 as my template, I'm actually not in a position where I want to worry yet. I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach to see where things are going to go, and I'm praying that something opens up or at least have one or two displays for the season. But it's in the hands of God. There's only so much I can worry about. Until that time, I'll be doing stuff like the podcast and stuff to talk about the things that are important to me, and I'm really thankful for those opportunities because I think it expands what I'm doing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and recently you were on Trent Horn's podcast, which is pretty awesome. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, and also got a chance to talk to Father Matt Snyder too, the
Sure.
autistic priest. That was a treat for me. Uh, I really admire a lot of the things that he's doing. So to be on the same podcast with him, that was a blessing.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
really a great show. So I mean, I encourage everyone to check it out. Now, with that everything going on, I know one of the things that you're passionate about is disability awareness.
yes.
So how do you think, I guess as a church now, that I guess we could recognize it more, maybe help a little more in that aspect?
Well, I think what is important to understand right now is that we're all on the same playing field when it comes to what has been limited. Uh, for many of us, being able to get to Mass has always been a bit of a challenge. So now you have a point where no one is able to get to Mass, and so you kind of develop a little bit better of an empathy for those who may be struggling with that issue of trying to get a ride. Uh, it can be very difficult and very challenging, especially when you don't always know who to ask. And on my own blog, I've covered the subject a couple times where I've talked about transportation. That's kind of like one of my big things, I guess.
Okay. So what do you think as transportation wise? I know you just said that was your big thing. What do you think that it's maybe something parishes can do differently?
I think what the goal would be is to make things easier to find volunteers who are willing to help out. Doesn't necessarily have to be, each church doesn't necessarily have to have their own shuttle service, but it should be made a little bit easier for people who are looking for rides to be able to find them. There are people within the parishes who are willing to help out. They just may not realize where the need is at. That's certainly been the case that I've seen it within Christ the Good Shepherd here in Saginaw. I have been blessed because there are people who found out that I needed a ride and they've been willing to help me. Uh, Especially like within the choir, I've been able to find extra rides here and there, but not everyone has those resources. Not everyone knows who to ask.
Okay. What do you think parishes can do differently to make sure that happens?
All I have to do really is just put a blurb in the bulletin and say that if you need a ride, to contact the office or something, and just see put something in the bulletin letting people know that there may be people who are willing to help out, or if someone wants to volunteer, that they can leave their name with the office. And that way, it just makes things easier overall.
Now, off air, we were talking a little bit, and like you said, we're all in the same boat. Do you think up until this point that maybe those of us who've been able to get the mass regularly maybe have been taking it for granted?
I believe so, and even I think I've even taken it for granted. I think that there's a certain expectation of going to mass every weekend, or for some people every day. Uh, and I think that at some point we reach a frame where we just start going through the motions. We may believe it fully, wholeheartedly, but we may not appreciate it as much as we do now. I think one of the consistent things that I've seen on social media, especially, is this frustration that we have. But I think some of that comes from the fact that some of us are realizing that we took things way too much for granted, and to have that taken away from us in such a chaotic and sudden fashion, for many of us, there was like literally no warning that this was going to happen. I think for us in particular, it opens up a door to make us appreciate what we have more. And so that way, when the public masses are restored to full status, then we appreciate that more and we take that more to heart and realize why we are gathering together to begin with. I know that's certainly how it's been with me these last few months.
So, what are some things? And you just mentioned social media, and of course, you're very popular on Twitter. First, you have the Lego Project Facebook page, and of course, your personal account. What are some things you've seen on social media that maybe lead you to believe that people are coming to that realization?
You see a lot of posts on there that talk about frustration. You see that you talk about you hear people that are talking about the spiritual health that this virus is taking on people. Uh, I know I speak from personal experience on this. From a spiritual standpoint, this has been one of the biggest traumatic things for me. I don't handle social isolation very well, and that's part of the disability that I have within that. So when you're looking at social media, you're scanning through the posts, you realize you get this overwhelming sense of frustration. People are and they're taking it out and may not always be in creative ways. You see people lashing out at the bishops, you see people lashing out at the priests when their hands are tied. I don't I admire what the priests are, what the bishops are doing, but they are in an unbelievable difficult spot because no matter what they do, they're going to come under fire from anyone. And also with the priests too. The priests have got to make their own decisions on things, and they're going to commit to actions that some people may not like. But then again, no matter what they do, there's always going to be criticism. There's always going to be conflict with that, and that's what you feel. You feel that sense of frustration. It boils down from that frustration because we want things to return to normal, and we don't know how. We don't know when that's going to happen. And I think it's the unknowns that are making people more upset. At least I know for sure that's what it is with me.
I agree wholeheartedly. And like you said, the bishops are in a tough spot. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. If
Exactly.
they allow public masses just to go on like they did before, you're going to get those people that are saying, "Oh, you don't care about the health of the people." And then, I say, and then there's the other way around where they're like, "Okay, you've shut down mass. You don't care about the spiritual health of the people." Like
Yeah,
we can't have it both ways.
I've seen that. I've seen both sides of that argument. And for me personally, that's where prayer comes in. That's been the message I've been posting lately is if you want things to change, if you want things to radically change, pray. Don't spend so much time on social media criticizing. Take that time and pray that things will change. I think that we reach a point sometimes where we try and minimize what God is willing to do for us. I know I've certainly been guilty of it myself, where we don't think that God will change, or we feel like that the world has sinned too much. I think that God is waiting for us to open up our hearts to prayer and to make an unceasing prayer that things work out for the better.
How has your prayer life changed during this whole thing?
I think I have personally prayed more often now, even in just silent prayer, like Lord help me, Lord help us. I think that I've gone throughout the day now where I've been in a constant state of prayer. Whereas before you'd sit down, 10, 15 minutes a day, maybe. And now it's all throughout the day where you're spending a little bit of time reflecting on things, asking for the Lord for help. Uh, Certain things that I've seen on the various platforms, you see a lot of prayer requests. I try and make more of an effort now to pray for them, even if I may not necessarily comment. I am praying when I see those prayer requests come through.
I've noticed that as well. A lot more prayer requests, a lot more people seem to be praying, which is a good thing. I guess it's, I guess, a positive that we can take out of this. We realized maybe we weren't praying like we should. What are your
Exactly.
thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't think it goes back to taking things for granted. It really does. That's been the consistent message I've seen, is we have taken things way too much for granted. So now we are in a position where we are more like the early apostles than we are the modern Christians. And
Well,
and when you look at the history of the church, though, this is not the first time we've had a crisis like this. Maybe the first time we've had to face a pandemic, but there have been many times where things were disrupted either by war, violence, persecution, stuff like that. This is not the first time we've had a crisis of this nature.
right. And don't be wrong. It's sad that we can't get the mass right now. I miss it desperately.
So do I.
But
And
there's people throughout the world right now, um, other Catholics who haven't been able to go to mass. It's illegal where they live,
yeah,
and so I guess in a way we can we can sympathize more with our brothers and sisters on the other sides of the world and wherever they are. Okay, we're with you. We kind of understand now, kind of what you're going through, even though it's not illegal here, but we can't go. Maybe we can join a little more, get that whole communion of saints thing going, understand a little more what our brothers and sisters are going
yeah.
through.
Well, one of the things that came to mind for me during the Easter time is one of the reoccurring themes that we come across is sacrifice. It's talked about many times. But up until this point, did we truly know what sacrifice was? Did we truly embrace it? Did we truly understand it? And I think that's definitely something that I've learned from all this. And I'm trying to find the positives in this. You have to. You have to try and make sense of what's going on. What can you learn from this? At least, once again, I speak from my personal experience. I know that for me, I've learned more about prayer. I've learned more about sacrifice. What does it mean to give up certain things? For many of us, this was our Lent, and it brought Lent into a very vivid, real experience that many of us may not have ever had.
Right.
And I'm praying that we've learned from this, and that when things are allowed to return to normal, I have faith that they will. When that will happen, that's in God's hands, not mine. I believe that things will work out, but I think when we come back, I think we're going to be stronger than we have been.
I agree with you on that. I think that a lot of us have realized what we've taken for granted, and I think we could use it as a springboard um, for evangelism. Maybe get our churches back a little stronger, get the gospel out there a little more, because it may not always be there, and kind of got a taste of that now. Um, so going forward, I know you're working on the project. You're still working on it. We're hoping for July. What's the project about this year?
Well, the project is about the Blessed Mother, but
Okay.
it is also about evangelizing. It is about sharing the faith. Always been my core message, but I think when this is done, I think the need for evangelists, the need for apologists is going to increase dramatically. Because we're going to need to go out there and take the experiences with this virus and use it to bring a more unique perspective to the faith. I think that we are all called to evangelize. We're all called to be witnesses. And I don't think that we ever really get that much of a chance to do it. And this gives us that framework. Faith has been tested. Faith has been tempered in fire. And we're learning every day about what this is doing to us, especially on a spiritual level. Uh, we talk about the Mass a lot because that's what it means for us as Catholics. That has always been the core of our faith. When growing up, that was the big thing: the family gatherings and the Mass.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we really have lost, and that's why we need the evangelists to share more about. I think, at least for me, not only what does it mean to be Catholic, but also how do I live my Catholic faith in a time of challenge?
Amen. Definitely in time of challenge. And I don't think any of us would have thought at the beginning of Lent, when we're giving up whatever it was we're giving
Yeah,
up, that we were
yeah,
going
I
to give
know.
up this much. So, like I said, time of sacrifice. It's horrible. Don't get me wrong. It's horrible. I'm not trying to minimize what's going on in the world, but
No,
at the same time, we've realized what a precious gift that we have in the Eucharist, in our gatherings at Mass with each other. What do you think going forward we can do to maybe not, I don't want to say take it for granted again, but you kind of catch my drift.
well, obviously we need to spend more time in prayer. Above all else, we need to take our prayer time seriously, whether that is just a conversation with God or something a little bit more structured. I don't necessarily think that there's a wrong way to pray. And I think that we should not. I also think we need to take more people where they are at in terms of their walk. Not everyone is strong, ultra hardcore, whatnot. There are many who are struggling, and we have to take that into consideration. We have to let people come to the church where they're at and not be so judgmental. We should not be passing too much judgment on people. There are obviously conflicts that we have internally, struggles that we have, battles that are endlessly going on. And we have to take that, we have to realize that with people. And once again, it boils down to the idea of attitude. We need to have a welcoming attitude when it comes to people. And I think that now that we've been through this challenge, I think that we can soften our hearts a little bit more and be more open to those, because there are going to be many people, once we start to emerge from this crisis, I think there are going to be people who are going to be hungry for the faith. They're going to be hungry for meaning in their lives since they've had almost everything taken away from them on an emotional level. The social isolation is not a very good thing for mental and spiritual health. And I
Mhm.
think so. I think once the parishes are allowed to reopen, you're going to see people that are hungry for the truth.
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100% on that. Well, John, I thank you for coming on the program. Where can our listeners learn more about you and your project?
They can find me on the Lego Church Project Facebook page. I am also on Twitter under KC8WZM. I also, my name on the screen name right now has the Lego Church Project in it, so if they search for me there, they can also go to Praying Bricks at Blogspot. Praying at the Bricks, my blog. I do postings there every so often. The current post is Faith and Worry, which is based on a comment from Father Celeste Casey. So, which I thought turned out very well.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. He's an awesome follow on social media. I encourage you to check it out. Support the project. Speaking of which, how can we support the project, John?
Right now, I'm not. My personal feeling is donate to your local parish.
Okay.
Donate to your local parish. They are going to be struggling more than me right now. I'm not going to actively take any donations for the time being, just because number one, I'm set on bricks at least until the next build for season 22. I'll open the donation drive and then. But right now, our parishes need support. Without the Mass, their source of funding has gone down dramatically.
Mhm.
So find a Catholic parish, donate to it, help them out, keep them running, so that way when Mass is restored, their doors can remain open.
Fantastic. I'm glad you said that because our churches are definitely hurting and they need our support more than ever. John, I thank you so much for joining me on the program. All right. God bless you and your work.
God bless, man. Thank you so much for having me again.
My pleasure.